You're listening to Drive with Chris Barr
on ABC Radio Sydney.
Now, you're about to meet a 27-year-old man who's fitted more into his life than most of us ever will. Nikhil Autar arrived in Western Sydney from Fiji at 3.5 and says he now has the most bogan accent of any Indian he knows. Now, aside from acquiring that accent after immigrating to Australia, here's a summary, and it's pretty incredible, of what he's managed to do while studying medicine as he battles cancer. Nikhil helped found Doctors Against Violence and expand that organisation. It's more than 700 doctors who are kicking huge goals for survivors of domestic violence, including getting coercive control recognised as a crime. Doctors Against Violence was a big part of that. Nikhil has also founded a startup called Bheem Health that's created a sensor mat for immobile people that will likely revolutionise pressure sore care in the community, because it's affordable, and also in nursing homes and hospitals. It can also reduce the likelihood of falls, which are one of the biggest causes of death in nursing homes and in hospitals. But not content with that, he's also building an app that basically is Google Maps for disability to help give people with disabilities or with high care needs a much better idea of access before they head out somewhere, so they can know how easy it is to get into a building, so they can understand if there's a toilet nearby should they need one. This is an app that he's starting to build now. Now, the incredible thing is, remember, he's 27 years old and he's a medical student. Nikhil has done all this studying and fighting his own health issues. Diagnosed at 17 with acute myeloid leukemia, he had a bone marrow transplant. When he relapsed a year later, during his first year at medical school, another bone marrow transplant. Then 3 years ago, open heart surgery, and earlier this year, he found himself in a wheelchair thanks to bone deterioration caused by the steroids that have helped save his life. Now, I got to meet him on Friday at a wonderful award ceremony called the Zest Awards. It's run by the Western Sydney Community Forum, and it recognises not-for-profit groups that basically run on the smell of an oily rag and step in where governments can't or won't. Now, these are the people who were the first responders during COVID. These organisations, these community organisations, were actually there on the ground as the first responders in COVID way before the government kept in. So Nikhil was at this awards ceremony and he took out the Western Sydney University Unsung Heroes Award at the Zest Awards. And I thought you'd like to meet him. So, Nikhil, welcome.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. It was amazing meeting you on Friday night, and I find what you've managed to achieve extraordinary. Let's start with Doctors Against Violence. Now, you got on board with that around 2019?
Yeah, so I got on board with it after I saw, in real time, a person who was missing. Their whole family was just asking everyone, where is she, where is she? And it ended up that she was murdered by her ex. And when I saw the media coverage behind it and I saw just some terrible headlines being made, I figured I really needed to do something. And that's when I, latched onto a group of doctors that were there, and they were sort of talking about this, promoting this sort of thing as much as they could. And I asked, what they do, and I decided to join them. And I grew. I got a little bit of a audience and attention behind that, created a national vigil sort of thing, and from that and going forwards, I sort of helped them out with their social media, their branding, and hopefully I managed to get them into politicians, viewpoints, and they've together we've sort of used our voice as experts in the field to sort of advance the issues that pertain to domestic violence, and it's led to some great things, and they're the real experts and doctors. I've just been helping out, helping to get their voices heard, and now they've got a trauma recovery center. It's literally a world first where you can go in, where you'll be able to go in and get all the services you need as someone who's faced violence in one place, and they've also gotten funding and are able to provide like a 40-bed trauma hospital, which literally gives top-of-the-line trauma care, because people don't realize things like PTSD and other issues that are caused by domestic violence are very real, and it's not easy to treat that. And a lot of doctors also don't know how to treat that. And I think one of the best things they do is because there's literally 750 doctors, that's like the largest organization of this kind in the world. They in their groups, they are helping each other every single day with difficult cases, telling each other which sources they need to go to. We have our psychiatrists giving like highly evidence-based tutorials and advice, I guess, on to other doctors on how they can help their patients best. And yeah,
So it's real quantifiable help that you're offering. The hospital that you're talking about is in the Illawarra, and this trauma centre that's going to be set up will be in Shell Harbour, as I understand it, for women and for men who are victims of violence.
yeah, exactly. And yeah, they're really like palpable things that are happening now because of this. And yeah, like some things that we will need are like, we need a place to sort of set up in Shell Harbour and funding for that, and we're working on that kind of thing. But as much help as we can get, we'd also love to be able to offer up that trauma hospital, because right now it's a private one. We want to get some public beds out there. So if there's anyone listening who wants to get in touch, please do. That will lead to literally, yeah, decades of benefit, because each of these women, they end up struggling for life. And if we can make an impact now, we'll save a lot of suffering as well as a lot of money for Australian taxpayers. And that's what it's all about.
I find it amazing, Nikhil, that you actually aren't qualified as a doctor yet. You're heading towards your final year of medicine, but you've already jumped on board so many medical things when you've had all these health struggles yourself.
Yeah, so I was diagnosed with leukemia when I was 17, and I always wanted to be a doctor, but that just made me want to be a doctor so much more. And yeah, when I got into it, I had some health challenges in the way. I've relapsed. I've had open heart surgery. I've had so many random things happen. So I've had a bit more time, I guess. I was doing some research as well into cancer, and in that time, I figured like there's a lot we can do. Like you don't have to be a doctor to help people. And yeah, I used, some skills and some knowledge I got from working with Canteen and other NGOs to help these guys out. And they've made so much happen. And yeah, I've got some other things as well. I've got a startup. We're creating the world's first sensor mat, which detects movement over your entire bed. So that's like, falls and pressure sores, things that are the most common causes of hospitalization, things that I've lost friends to falls as well. That's sort of what started this.
So
Like
how does a pressure
that
mat
kind of thing.
stop falls? How does that work?
So yeah, so basically right now it requires literally tens to hundreds of thousands of point sensors to detect someone's position in bed. So we use stretch fabrics and algorithms to do that same thing. And 70% of falls happen when you're getting out of bed. So we have that, the movement sort of sensors, as well as pressure sensors at those points to detect if someone's gotten up without enough force to allow them to get up stably. And if people roll off the bed, then we can detect that too. And it combines with other sort of devices that are already out there, that nursing homes, but also people at home, right? Because a lot of these things happen in the community. I've faced these myself, like when I was getting treatment for cancer and after I was getting rehab for open heart surgery. And yeah, the price point that we can get this to will make this something that anyone has access to. And that's, yeah, that also, like medical innovation, that kind of thing, it creates so much good, and it's something I've been happy to be a part of.
I don't want
Yeah.
to just sort of drill the human experience down to economics, but if this affordable sensor mat can get out into the community, and pressure sores are a really big deal for people who are immobile, how much money will it potentially save so that people know when they need treatment, when they need to move to avoid pressure sores?
Yeah, so like in Australia, pressure sores cost between $2 to $5 billion a year. So it requires nurses in hospitals 20 minutes to change each pressure wound. 1 in 4 people who go into ED will have a pressure sore, but many people who come out of hospital will have one. And then you also have in the community so many of these happening as well. And yeah, if everyone that you can prevent saves literally tens of thousands of dollars, because each one takes about 12 to $13,000 to treat, and many people have many on them. in Queensland, it costs $10,000 to nursing homes when they get these kinds of things. Our Sensomat comes in at a fraction of that price, and it saves that time. But most importantly, I think, like, having been on the patient end, like, as someone who's been getting wound stressed, community nurses used to come out and spend an hour with me each time. Like, this allows them to have so much more time that they can use to put into doing the great work they do, to helping people, not just as patients, like, but also as people. And yeah.
And I know earlier this year you found yourself in a wheelchair, mainly because of the steroid medication you've had to take because of treatment for cancer. And now, not content with just using your experience for a Sensomat, you're also creating an app for people with disability. How does that work?
Yeah, so we literally, like, I encountered this problem when I was trying to get to venues myself, like even a med school, which you'd think would be the most accessible sort of location ever. I couldn't find a way to do it. So what we're doing is we're creating the Google Maps for disabled people. So we've been working on this for a month, and we've already got like a prototype where you can start doing the things that we want to do. So basically, you can input as you're walking around as you do, like if there's a set of staircases, or if there's a ramp here, or if there's an accessible bathroom in this business, and businesses can sort of input that information too, and that'll help make, like, it's so hard for you to know if a venue is going to be safe for you, if there's adequate parking, if you can even attend doctor's appointments, like how you can do that without suffering. Like, that's so much harder when you're on a wheelchair, but also when you've got other issues. If you've got a child that you have to care for who needs changing regularly, they could be an adult too who needs that. If you've got angina, like I've literally had heart attacks myself. And yeah, if you walk up a couple of stairs, that could be life threatening if you didn't know they were there. So this allows us to point that out, and we're looking to employ disabled people and allow them to be the change makers in the community, to educate businesses, to allow the world to be a more accessible place, and also get themselves into a situation where they can help out more, and they can be themselves, which is what it's all about.
Have you always been this community minded? I mean, you've been dealing with cancer or the threat of cancer since you were 17. You're now 27. You're in your final year of medical school. I would have thought you would have been pretty busy. Were you this community minded before you turned 17, or did your diagnosis shift the way that you saw the world?
Like, I think even in high school, I always wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to dedicate my life towards doing something where I could help people, right? But when I got into med school, I realized as well, going to global health conferences and also like working in charities and also looking at how corporations sort of work as well, I realized that you can make a huge impact outside of medicine, but also using my medical expertise to figure out the problems that need to be solved, right? And yeah, through all that, like I started getting involved with other things, and yeah, I think you don't need a medical degree to do good.
How do you
And
fit it all in?
it is tough, but at the same time, I've got teams that help me out, and especially when you're doing these things at, medical school, I love that. The app we're creating, I'm loving that. The sensors are revolutionary, and Doctors Against Violence, there's some amazing people, and if you make whatever you do seem like it's not work, that is huge. And that comes from you ultimately, because you're going to ultimately be doing that stuff anyway. If you can find the reasons behind this, why you're doing it, if you can give it yourself purpose through whatever you do, you make life, you make work not work, and you make life better. And if you're not doing that enough already, you feel, then you can always go out and help out people who are doing things already. And that is an investment in yourself. And that just makes life so much more worth living, and it makes, yeah, the world a better place too.
So what are you going to do when you finish your degree? I mean, you're going to have a lot more time on your hands, aren't you, to try and change the world?
We'll see. It really depends, because my health will maybe make internship and pursuing a medical career like as a clinician really hard. But I've been doing research. I've got these businesses and I've got these charities that I'm helping out. And yeah, no matter what, as long as I'm making, even if I get worse medically, as long as I can make some kind of impact or some kind of positive impact on the world, I'm happy doing that. So that's me.
Nikhil, what you're doing is absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for joining us, and best of luck with Bheem Health and the Access app that you're creating. And thank you for everything that you've done for people who are survivors of domestic violence.
No worries. And if anyone wants to reach out, you can always reach out. Just look up my name, and I'm an open book. I'm always happy to talk to people as well.
You're with Chris Bath on ABC Radio Sydney.
Okay, so I don't use the word incredible lightly. What a story. What an amazing man. Margot from Concord's texted in and said, this young man needs to be nominated for Australian of the Year. Yeah, here. This is what I said. Like, he's not going to be unsung for that long when you listen to that story. Now, he said if you wanted to contact him, you can. I just thought you might want his contact details. If you want to help out Nikhil or find out more about his many wonderful projects, you can find him on social media. It's at Nikhil Autar, which I might have to spell for you. It's NikhilAutar. He also has a website, nikhilautar.com. NikhilAutar. Now, one of the wonderful things that Nikhil said to me when I met him was that he has gone back to Liverpool Hospital to train as a medical student and walked in, and it's one of the hospitals where he was treated very early on in his cancer diagnosis. And the staff looked at him and said, "What are you doing here?" They were so surprised and so amazed and so thrilled for him. Now, it's not the only hospital that he's been treated at. He's also been treated for both of his transplants, I understand. It's St Vincent's. And Simone's one of the nurses who treated him, and she's called in. Simone, good afternoon. Thanks for calling in. Now, you treated Nikhil.
Well, good afternoon. I've had the pleasure of being a part of the transplant team that had the pleasure of and honour of providing care and treatment to Nikhil and his beautiful family. Yes, on both of his transplants. I was just so proud of him. I wanted to text in and say, "Go Nikhil, go Nick."
It must be incredibly rewarding for you as somebody in the transplant team to see him doing so well.
Well, yes. His medical clinicians and the nursing and allied health transplant team that I'm part of, we deeply invested in and love our work, and all we want to see when young people go through the horror and struggle of leukemia diagnosis is for them to see life on the other side of their transplants and go beyond. And boy, has he gone beyond, and he's inspiring to us all and incredibly gratifying because obviously the whole time we're treating him through the absolute, he's so humble, but the absolute struggle of his treatment. We're just always, hoping, pushing, and all busting our guts alongside him when he's doing the hardest work, but just to help him get back to life in whatever way. And he's such an inspiring young man to push through his ongoing health struggles and help someone new every day. And I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
I would imagine that he was pretty stoic through his treatment, and without intruding too much on what that was like for him, had he always had such a positive attitude? Like, his attitude towards what he's dealing with and what you can take from life in spite of that is extraordinary.
It is. I think Nick's, I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but I think he's a really deep thinker. And Nick was very young when he first came to us for his transplant, but I think the love of his family, and I think that the depths that he had to go to emotionally and physically, it was always there. But I think I think he must have done a lot of philosophizing, and he was very, very generous post-transplant writing. He was writing blogs very early when he commenced his studies, and he would write beautiful things about the treatment and how inspired he was by the team. And I think perhaps there was a little trigger in there. It was all inside Nick. It's him, but I think that he was a slow burner and a deep thinker. And I think trauma of treatment probably brought all this out in him just a bit earlier, potentially.
Well, Simone, thank you so much for calling in and sharing your experience of him. It's been wonderful to share him with the ABC audience, and thank you for your reflections.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a big hi to him, and thanks for featuring Nick. Great work, guys.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks, Simone. That's Simone, part of the transplant team that treated Nikhil Auteur, who you just heard from, and a lot of texts in about Nikhil. What a fabulous guy from Deb, an amazing story, tears in my eyes from Gemma, and this from Dr. Di, amazing young man. I met him as a med student in my clinic, such courage and dedication to helping others. And yeah, if you want to read some of Nick's blogs, just head to his website, nikhilauteur.com.
You're listening to Drive with Chris Farth
on ABC Radio Sydney.
BeamSense is the first sensor mat which monitors movements over your entire bed, as well as heart and breath rates, contact-free. We use patented materials and proprietary algorithms as opposed to thousands of point SRs to map your movement, making this tech affordable for the first time. We're working with UNSW, who has the only roll-to-roll printer in the nation which can make this in one run. Its most obvious application is in aged care and remote home monitoring for falls and pressure sores. See, this is where BeamSense differentiates itself. Current devices, such as bed presence monitors, don't track pressure sores at all. Units that map movements over your entire bed cost $6,000 to make, making it too expensive for clinical use case. They're also highly uncomfortable. BeamSense fits like a fitted sheet over your bed and feels like a yoga mat. It provides in-depth detail of when, but also where to move a patient. Do you want them on their left or right side? Has their foot, which has had a previous pressure sore, experienced force for way too long? Does it need to be moved? That detailed insight is what BeamSense provides. Wearables like fall pendants are accurate at detecting them, but unlike these devices, BeamSense isn't a wearable. It's under you the entire time you're in bed. It not only lets you know when a person's rolled out or fallen out of bed suddenly, but it also learns from a user's body, calculates how much force is required to get up safely. Most calls, especially injurious ones, happen getting out of bed. So alerts are sent through this app, which we've designed with nursing homes and facilities. During this project, we hope to verify BeamSense's detection capabilities against various body types, weights, and also mattresses. And then clinically trial algorithms we've developed with our scientific advisory board, leading pressure sore, fall researchers, materials manufacturing experts on our board. They have significant clinical trialing experiences. They will guide us through this. Now, this will get us ready for regulatory approval, but also importantly, provide an evidence base from which we can sell. We already have a potential site, Montefiore. They're actually keen to purchase from us once the device is ready. And then beyond this, we have impressive advisors, including the head of sales of numerous medical device firms, Michael Casey, and ASX-listed First Group CEO, Klaus Bartosch. He can reach any nursing home in Australia. And we also have connections to distributors in America. Our product price point qualifies this as a low-cost assistive technology device, making it accessible for NDIS clients and providers. And besides, we've also crowdfunded and pre-saled dozens of BeamSense Lite units as remote home vital and sleep monitors. We're planning a larger campaign on the back of this, and we've also got B2C channels like QVC, independent living specialists. They're already becoming buyers for an aged care product. That demographic is perfect, especially for QVC. Our team is comprised of compassionate, talented engineers and mentored by giants in the field. And me, I'm an ex-cancer patient. I've nearly died from a fall. I've had pressure sores on my back that have lasted years. I hope to use this passion to keep driving us so that we can make life safer, easier, and more comfortable for all.